Radio Commissioner of the TRSBA, Tim Wushi here. 2 weeks to Christmas, but wearing the Christmas hat nonetheless. TRSBA Mumblings, 20 games in. So here we go. I'm not sure this will go for a bit today, so we'll get into it. Okay, so TRSBA Mumblings, 20 games in. Make sure it's sharing the right screen. Yeah, it is right. Okay. 20 games in, so let's have a bit of a look at what's going on. The top 32 players, let's sort of go through them. Jokic and MB, that's pretty much the same as how it was after 10. Luka's up there. Giannis, number 4. Shea, as expected, number 5. Tyrese Halliburton, number 6. Unbelievable value, these guys. Durant is very surprising to me that he's number 7. It's a great effort from him. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox, we'll talk about him, but he's looking good. Devin Booker, Tatum, about where they usually are. Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey still number 14. LeBron James, amazing that this guy is in the top 15 right now. Sabonis certainly belongs there. LaMelo Ball, Steph Curry, getting a little bit older, but okay. Bam, huge of late. Actually, he should be on the hot player list. Damian Lillard, about what you expect there. Edwards, are roughly what you expect. Sengun, we'll talk about him. Randall, great enough. Scotty Barnes, that's still pretty solid. Desmond Bain. Laurie Markin, I think he's out injured at the moment. Irving's had some injuries as well. Jalen Brunson, very, very good. Paul George, yep, probably the best Clipper so far this year. Brandon Ingram, probably been hurt a bit. Mikal Bridges, as expected. Karl Anthony Towns in the top 32. Right, so let's have a look at the players that have been playing shit the last 3 weeks. Tobias Harris started out really, really good, but now he's the last 3 weeks, 22.11 fantasy points a game. OG Anunoby has really had a bad year all year, except for maybe the last game, 21.56 for OG. Russell Westbrook, we knew this was going to happen. We knew that his production was going to go down. It's 20.4 fantasy points a game. One of the worst stretches in his, is it an illustrious career? I guess you could say that. Josh Giddey, it's just this whole fucking thing with playing on his mind, I think. Just having that exposure to, having those pictures with that young girl, whatever that was. Jordan Poole still not anywhere near 30 fantasy points, which is what we were projecting at the start of the season. So he's still playing shit a lot of the time. The thing with Poole is, I just think Washington aren't using him right. I think he should be the point guard. And I think rather than the 2, he doesn't look like a 2. He's really a 1. And when he was in Golden State, he played the 1 quite a bit. And even Curry was off ball or coming off the bench was poor. But he instigated the offense. He got assists. He created other opportunities for his teammates. He's not doing that in Washington. He can't rebound the ball. His defense is suspect. He's just a one-dimensional scorer, and he's not scoring very well, and the minutes aren't there predominantly. I think that he might be coming around, but we sort of overreacted a little bit at the start of the season to think that he might be an absolute stud and be one of the league leaders in points per game. Nowhere near that. DeJounte Murray, just a bit of a cold stretch for him, 26.8 fantasy points a game. Jalen Green, third-year player, should be getting well over 30 fantasy points a game now with the way he can score. But I don't think it's working in Houston for him at the moment. He's just stuck on about that, 25. And Harrison Barnes, 17.67 fantasy points a game. Horrendous player now. I'd waive him if I had him on my team. But, yeah, we'll talk about him a bit more later. But there's a picture of him. The hot players, JV, a bit surprised that Jonas Valanciunas is up around 30 fantasy points a game the last 3 weeks. Been really good. Maybe he should start ahead of these other guys, but for now, MPJ's had a good run, 28.45 fantasy points a game. Maybe that's who he is. We hope that's who he is. We signed him. Sengun is just an absolute stud. Third year in the league, 36.56 fantasy points a game. right up there on the season as well. Just unbelievable Sengun. This guy is a stud, a steal in the draft for Houston. Bain, we just knew with Morant out, this guy's scoring was going to elevate, and it has. And lately, he's just been on fire. Kuzma has been on fire pretty much all season. He's been hot. Halliburton, no more needs to be said about this guy. 43.71 fantasy points a game. Absolute stud is Halliburton. And I don't think he'll ever get traded from the San Fran Tigers. I just got a feeling they'll keep him forever, just like Dennis will keep Trae Young forever. 42.56 fantasy points a game. Dennis wants to have this guy's, wants his babies or something. He loves Trae Young that much. Fox, it's surprising that he's still this good. I didn't think he's this good, but he's been really good. He showed how good he was last year, and it elevated a bit more. 41.89 fantasy. It's way above. Like, he's doing better than Sabonis by 5 fantasy points a game, which is crazy when you think about that. Brunson, we know, is an absolute stud. He's found a really good home in New York, and New York have been on a bit of a run, and it's mainly because he was Randall. Dinwiddie just on a roll lately with some injuries that the Nets had. It's 27.8 fantasy points a game for him. What's next? The standings. Let's have a quick look. Boars, probably the best record in the league at the moment, and right up there with percentages. Look how far they're really neck and neck with the Barbs. 232.6, and we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into the Wild Boars. So Heff, look out for that. The Brown Cows, surprised a little bit that they're second on the best in the East, but it's working for them, and we won't have a look at their team because we sort of looked at it a bit last time. It has changed a bit, so we'll probably visit the Brown Cows maybe on the next episode, assuming they're still sort of doing as well as they are. Maybe they've just been a bit lucky with the schedule, but the Predators seem to be consistent. The Jaguars score average is a bit below what they hoped. They hoped for about 215. That's the pull factor a little bit, and some injuries, 205.1, 9 and 9. But I can tell you this now, after 20 games, we'll be 11 and 9, and hopefully 12 and 9 if we beat the Saints. Wolfhounds, same record, but their averages is, if you have a look at it, it's the 4th worst in the league. The Red Devils, a better average. Just had a bit of a bad luck run, I think, really, 5 and 13. Not tanking because I don't have any draft picks, I don't believe. Witches, we'll look at them in a bit more detail later. But they're 3 and 15, definitely in tank mode. Lions are in tank mode, 159.6. In the West, Barbarians actually lost 5 games already, which is surprising. They've actually got a good team. The Penguins are really good, though. As the commissioner said, I expected them to do really well, and they have. And we sort of, the Saints, we expected them to sort of battle. The Tigers, we expected them to be really good as well. The double-doubles, they get bragging how well they've been playing lately. The Flyers and the Snipers both well above. They've both got better averages than the Jags at the moment, which is interesting. Jags likely to get a win over the Snipers. The Flyers, we'll have a look at their new team shortly because they did a big trade, which I'm not saying we'll talk about that. The Hurricanes haven't done a lot, but they've got the makings of certainly a good team at some stage. Okay, let's talk about Heff's deals over the last 6 weeks. This analysed trade by trade. There's 11 of them to analyse. We'll go quickly through some of the minor ones, but some of the major ones we might talk a bit more about. The Wild Boars traded Christian Wood to the Hurricanes for Isaiah Jackson, so it's a nothing for nothing sort of trade. Wouldn't have made any difference really to what's going on there. Both Isaiah Jackson, as I was watching the game yesterday, has certainly got a future in the NBA, I think. When that'll be, how that'll be, maybe it's 4 years away, but he looks like he will break out at some point. The Wild Boars traded Jalen Johnson, the 2nd round pick, to the Saints for Ayton and a 1st round pick. Now, at the time, this looked like a horrible deal because Ayton has a lot of value. Jalen Williams, to me, was a better player than Jalen Johnson, and they could have got him instead, a better contract. But they ended up with Jalen Johnson, who I think Dennis just loved because he's an Atlanta Hawk player, really. But this is the start of the turn, the Boers turning the screws on the Eastern Conference, because they weren't much ahead of the rest of the conference for that trade, and that's what elevated them, irrespective of what has happened to Ayton. We'll get to that. They traded Malcolm Brogdon, Max Strus, a first round pick to the Butchers for Paul and Capella. That's a lot to give up for Paul and Capella. So that's probably a trade where they didn't actually win, because Strus has been quite good. So that's actually a win for the Butchers, believe it or not. Paul and Capella's still been a lot better than I expected, but when this trade was made, it looked pretty horrible for the Boers. But then they traded Ayton for DeJounte Murray. Now, we know second round pick's not worth a lot. We know that DeJounte Murray is better, a reasonable amount better than, say, a DeAndre Ayton. So getting value for Ayton was good. Murray probably recently hasn't been as great, but that 26 or 27 fantasy points is still better than Ayton's 25. So it's a win-win for the Boers here. That trade was anyway, easily. This one's a good one. I think they did well here. I mean, Marcus Smart, the commissioner needed a guard. This is the only reason he was looking at this trade. Trey Murphy was injured at the time. He was deep on the roster. We had enough depth there. We didn't really. We just needed a guard, and we felt that Smart could provide something, especially with the thinness that the Jags sort of had with an injury or two in the guard spot. So this was the only reason for the trade, just to balance out those positions. So really, I'm sure that trade worked out well for the Boers so far. Then they traded Clint Capella with Trey Murphy. So some fairly good pieces to get Kobe White and Jared Allen. Now, when this trade was made, Kobe White sort of going through his buy low sort of area, I think, because he'd start out the season, he was getting the minutes, and then went through a little stink fest for about a week, and so okay, he's back to the Kobe White from the last 3 or 4 years. 4 years, I think it is. And Jared Allen was Jared Allen, so it's neither here nor there. It was actually probably a good trade for the Butchers again, but look at what Kobe White's been doing lately. You could argue that the Boers are winning that trade. So a risk that's sort of paying off. The Wild Boars then traded Eric Gordon, Russell Westbrooks are 2 shit shows for Grant Williams, Harrison Barnes, Lonnie Walker. Now that's just a nothing fucking trade. I mean, what are we even talking about? We're not going to talk about that trade. That's with a bunch of shit for a bunch of shat, But the big one here, traded DeJounte Murray, Emmanuel Quickly, Jared Allen. So that's 3 really solid pieces for Julius Randle and Mitch Robinson. Now, that's a lot to give up there for the Julius Randle, but Julius Randle is the best player in this group. They get a first-round pick, so that's good. I think it was probably a not bad trade. It's pretty cap-related, I think, for Wild Boars. It's not a bad trade. And the way Julius Randle's been playing, it's certainly not bad. Definitely playing better than Murray, and probably is better than Murray. Wild Boars then trade. This is the one that really irks me, this trade here. I sort of just skim by, because I get so many of these trades from here. You skim over them and you say, yep, approve. They traded LaMelo Ball, Mitch Robinson, Miles Turner. Just 3 players only. That's it. Just those 3, right? LaMelo's, yes, a top 15 player. We know that. Not a top 8 player from even a dynasty perspective, in my opinion. I think he's probably about 9 or 10. Miles Turner's got some value, but it's not a lot. For Naismith, Eric Gordon, and Jokic. Now, why would you give up Jokic for this? It just doesn't make sense. Jokic is the best player in the NBA, the TRSBA, whatever. He's in his prime. He will be for the next 5 years. I mean, this just does not make sense, mate. You could get a lot more than this. He could have got maybe a Tatum who's better than fucking LaMelo Ball. We could have got that. He could have got, he probably wouldn't have got a Halliburton, but he would have got an SGA off. I'm sure Dennis would trade SGA for Jokic with some pieces. Maybe even you could probably even get Zion and SGA for fucking Jokic, because even if whoever gets Jokic in that trade generally would be the winner. that's the way, that's something that I'm sure, whew, it's crazy. So that's the one that irked me the most. And I just look back at it and think, fuck, what, trading Jokic for that? No, I mean, if Giannis was involved, maybe, yeah, you know, Embiid, no. But, an injured sort of LaMelo Ball, who's going to be out for a little while, was injured, when this trade was sort of getting made. It's just a horrible, horrible, horrible fucking deal, man. This is shit. And it just elevates them, boom, this really puts the Boars up there. The Wild Boars then traded Harrison Barnes, crap player, Taylor Thornton Tucker, first round picks are basically a first rounder for Cole Anthony, Zubac. So it's getting some pieces there. Cole Anthony's hot. He's a good player. I think he's a starting caliber player, proving that this year. And they've been going, Zubac has been pretty solid. Let's be fair, 23 FP sort of solid player. But then they traded Cole Anthony and the Jags second for Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder's got zero value much. I don't think he's got a lot of value. So I think Hurricanes actually did okay to get Cole Anthony, who's a lot better in a dynasty format, which is what the TRSBA is. He's a lot better in a dynasty format than a Dennis Schroeder, who's really just on his last legs. He's just in a lucky situation at the moment. You're not going to get many lucky situations if you're Dennis Schroeder. You've got maybe one or two teams where you could start in the NBA. Toronto just happens to be one of them. So he's not going to be there for long. It's a really good trade for the Hurricanes. So that's my analysis of all the Heffs deals. If you look at how it started, they started with Miles Turner at center. They ended up with Jokic. Obviously, they still got Durant. They still got Edwards. They got rid of Ball. So they've got rid of Turner and Ball, right, and ended up with Jokic and Randall. That's crazy. You get rid of Turner and Ball, and you get Randall and Jokic. That's basically, if you nut down the trades, they got Kobe White, they got Derek White already, kept him. Just crazy what they, been able to do. Brogdon, I mean, we know that Jalen Johnson's injured, so, and they got basically kept doing bartering deals on that, on Jalen Johnson to end up with fucking Julius Randle. Crazy, eh? That's enough about the fucking Alabama Wild Boars. Don't know why. The nerds back and forth recent deal. Let's just analyze this because, we just want to see if there's any sense to be made here because I don't think there would be. The Red Devils trade Fultz, Tyus Jones to the Butchers for Zubac and Brogdon. That's okay. I like, Zubac and Brogdon. I like that part. It's not bad. Red Devils then trade Simmons and Zubac back to the Butchers for Clint Capella and John Collins. I mean, what are we doing here? Ben Simmons definitely got some sort of value, and it's mixed, but it's obviously not a lot now. And then they trade Clint Capella and John Collins. So the same two guys back for Ben Simmons, and instead of getting Zubac, we get a dickhead like Harrison Barnes in a second round pick. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing? It's the same trade, but Zubac is a lot better than fucking Barnes in a second. Well, yeah, it's a much of a muchness. What are we fucking doing? And then the Red Devils trade Ben Simmons back with Harrison Barnes and not worth anything. So Ben Simmons basically for John Collins and Tyus Jones. That's probably a better deal, really, because at least you get two starting NBA players that are sort of lower 20 FP sort of guys, which is just helping with your depth. So the last trade probably is the only one that really makes sense there for the nerds. New rule changes. There's been a few. One of them's official. Two of these not official yet, but likely to come in. You can now assign an eligible 1 year option on players with just $1 million in resigning value. This is a resident rule. We put it to the TRSBA page. So there's the three GMs, Terry, Ben, and Mitchell, that aren't on the TRSBA Facebook page. It didn't matter. We already had 11 votes. So that's official. So you can, if you've got a guy that you just want to reserve for another year and you've got the ability to do that, then you can. This is one that's likely to get up. It's just logistics. I think in season 2024-25, it's likely to happen. I've got about 5 or 6 votes on the TRSBA page, 3 against. But the only ones against was that, it's how's it going to work? How's it going to be proper and possible? Well, I think the in-season tourney has been very exciting. I love the single elimination format. I want an inaugural TRSBA Cup champion. We're either going to get the Lakers or the Pacers in the real NBA, which is not the 2 favoured teams. So it could actually go to a more random team, which makes it a bit more fun. What the way we'll do it is the schedule will be done exactly done how it will be, with everything being fair. And this will get done, I think, within the first 20 games of the TRSBA season. So there'll be 4 group games, which will be you against 4 other teams in your same conference, 2 at home, 2 on the road, and then it'll be a case of a single elimination. And it'll work just like that. So there will be a way to do it, and we'll predict. We'll sort of do the schedule predicting on who will win the games, and then if it doesn't sort of go to the way it would be predicted, what would happen then is you just tweak that game and say, okay, well, they're not playing this team because that team won, so we're just going to change that to this team. And then when those 2 teams play back over in the back half of the year somewhere, we're going to change that. So there will be a way to do it. Trust me, I think there'll definitely be a way to do this, for sure. Position eligibility poll. This will have to be an official one. I've tried to get some feedback as to where I think the rule should go. I put it out there just on the TRSBA page to say, because we had a situation where there was 13%, the second position for Spencer Dinwiddie, and basically he wanted to be a guard forward. And put it out, this didn't pass the smell test to me. I looked at in the last 40-odd games, he'd just been a 1 or a 2. So I sort of said, no, it doesn't pass the smell test. And then President kept pushing back at me and saying, why, we could be consistent with the rules. So I put it out there, and the Pulse, basically, I didn't have anybody voting with the president at all. So I just took that off and say, okay, I'm going to try to come back with a poll about position eligibility. And I'll put this up there today, I think. So I'm going to go with Basketball Reference, because it is very reliable from what I can see. Some people may not think so, but I think it's reliable. But for a change to be made, what I want to see is the secondary position needs to be 20% for 20 games. That is enough to make an official change if the GM wants it. So that's what I'm going to look at. 20%, 20 games. That's, I think, because from what I can see, I think the league wants the position eligibility fairly strict. So I'm for either, to be fair. At the end of the day, I could go either way, but I think I'm going to go with strict first and see if it gets up. Okay, so this is where we're going to go. Let's have a look at the 6 teams we didn't look at last time. Let's have a look at the Hounds. They're not tanking. They're 500 at the moment. Carl Anthony Towns and Bridges are probably doing what they should be. Claxton has only played 11 games. Flan Vliet is doing what was expected there. So you've got 3 to 4 guys doing their stuff. Aaron Gordon, 24.1, and Giddy has been absolutely shit, especially lately. He's been shit. When he was about a 30 fantasy points a game player last year, he's dropped down to 20. That hasn't been good. They've got Washington there. They've got Ivy. Ivy's going to be good. Colin Sexton, I don't think he'll get any better than that. And the Wolfhounds, I think the Red Devils eventually overtake them, but we'll see. It's not going to be for a little while yet. Let's have a look at the teams that are tanking here, and let's just really look at an in-depth look at the Butchers, who now ended up with Ayton. They've got Miles Bridges back from suspension. And look and behold at that. He is leading the team in fantasy points a game, and he's played 9 of them. Wow. Keegan Murray hasn't really turned the screws on anything yet. Max Strus, it's pretty bad if he's your 3rd best player. Really? Michael Foot's injured. Walker Kessler. Yeah, for this format, he's not that great. He's probably better in a nine cat format, obviously, and a specialist in blocks. Ben Simmons has played 6 games, that's all. Clint Capella has been okay. He's been actually quite good. Good reserve, 23.4. He's, I didn't, uh, the reason he's been able to hang on, I think, is Onyeka Okongwu has been an absolute turd ball in his 4th season so far. If you have a look at Onyeka Okongwu's stats, he should have been in the shit players, actually, because he should be in his 4th season getting to levels that are above the Mark Williamses, that are above the Jalen Durans of the world, but he's way behind those guys, way behind. And Clint Capella has been able to keep his job because Onyeka Okongwu has really digressed this year anyway. We'll see. Hopefully that changes for Onyeka. I'm sure it does, but it's a bad start, man. I'm not sure where I'm sort of going off on a tangent there. Harrison Barnes, just fucking get rid of that prick, please. Dale Clayton, the Lions, starting Looney, starting Bojan Bogdanovic. Yeah, it's going to be a long season if he's your best player. Brandon Miller, like what he'll do later on. Jalen Green, far out, man. Suggs is playing better than his 18.7 fantasy points a game, but at least he's going in the right direction. Oubre is back from the car accident. He should be okay. Keontae George is an absolute stud. What I don't like about this team was that Lively trade. I think they gave away Lively too cheaply in a way. I know Lively might be limited, but Lively's already ahead of someone like Okongwu, and he's played like less than 20 games in his career. So I would have kept Lively, you know. Um, this team has got just the 2 first-round picks, the wild balls, and theirs. It's pretty. It is slim. They're hoping to get more out of Scoot Henderson. Um, Back to this team over here, that 1 to 5 first-round picks. So you got Penguins, Saints, the Butchers. So that could be a top 3 pick at this stage. And the Red Devils and Wolfhounds could be a top 8 pick. So we'll see what happens. Um, On to the Pete Mitchell. I don't think we discussed him last time. Let's have a look at this new team now. That's led by LeBron, and LaMelo Ball's he's going to be out for a while. 36.1 for him. Keldon Johnson. Yeah. Miles Turner. Yeah, no, he's playing his best basketball that he's probably played in his career lately. He's been good. LeBron, I just can't believe this guy. He's so amazing for his age. Westbrook and Hardaway Levert. This team is not really good depth wise, and I'm surprised that their average is as high as they have, especially when you look at all the shit that goes on around this team. Keldon Johnson. If you were to tell me that Keldon Johnson was going to average 27.3 fantasy points a game in this season with Wembanyama, Vassell playing pretty much all the games, with Zach Collins playing center, with Sohan, all that sort of stuff going on, you're going to tell me that Keldon Johnson was going to come out and get 27.3 fantasy points a game. You say, what? You feeling okay? But he's doing it. So there you go. Yeah, let's go on to the snipers. Giannis obviously leading the team here, and they've got a few other solid players, Ingram and Irving above 30. So you've got 3 guys there to build around. But what else have they got? Garland is sort of not really progressing. He's probably just on the backside of it. Jordan Clarkson has been out a bit lately. Yummy Yuckers. He's going to be pretty good, I think. Sohan right down the list now. Dylan Brooks all right down the list. Austin Reeves has probably been the one that's been a little bit disappointing because they would have spent a bit of money in the free agency to get this guy, and he just hasn't really been performing. I think we might finish up with the Hurricanes. I think this is the last of the slides. Keeping their pick. They've got the last 2 number ones there. It's Jabari Smith, Victor Wembanyama. They've got the Zach Collins in there. Donovan Mitchell. Yeah. Going to give them some wins, no doubt. Jamal Murray. He's had some injuries already. It is a concern for him, I think. I don't think he's going to come back and get to the 30, but I hope he does, but be more likely that he doesn't. Paul Anthony's been really good, man. Really good. Look at that last 5 games, 29.2. Wow. Just a solid performer. 27 over the last 10. He is hot. Um, Josh Hart, not just really a role player. DeAndre Hunter, Caldwell Pope. So a lot of these guys are bottom feeders. Christian Woods, some ended up here. James Wiseman's fucking one of the shonkiest of shonky picks. Um, I mean, they've got some future. They could do well again. I mean, they should get a top 3 pick. Don't trade it away, but it's hard to know what they'll do here. I just want to see a bit more out of Jabari Smith Jr. I think he's got the ability to really take it up a notch. Victor, you know, it's people are saying he hasn't started out that well. I think he's been okay. He's the sort of guy that will be probably the best player in fantasy basketball in a couple of years. Mark probably year 3, I would guess. Year 3, but at the moment there's still shooting is bad. Still a lot of things. Still a few holes in his game, for sure. But his shot blocking is exceptional. His height is exceptional. He's going to be playing the 4 a lot. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it, is it? Yeah. Anyway, that's been a bit of a mumblings episode there. Hope you enjoy it. Try to get another one, maybe done before Christmas, but maybe not as well. Maybe just after, maybe the new year. Anyway, all the best, and I hope that's been very helpful because it has for me. Thank you.